Greetings, I appreciate you dropping by the channel as I give some thoughts and questions about Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 6, the penultimate chapter in this series. How do you feel about this series as it closes next week? Will Book of Boba Fett get a Season 2? Or are the characters just going to show up in other projects? Anyways, Chapter 6 opens with Cobb Vanth, the Marshal of Mos Pelgo, as he lays down the law to a group of pikes doing business in his territory. Before Mandalorian Season 2, I wasn't familiar with the character of Cobb Vanth, but his attitude is a welcome sight, especially on Tatooine. Maybe one day, in a Star Wars story, one of the kids from the school will get off planet. Coming out of the title card, we are flying with Din Djarin and his tremendous N1 starfighter. The one-of-a-kind sounds this thing produces already has me excited to see it only a week and a half after its creation. As Din cruises through this lush planet, I knew just from the sight of the beacon emitter that the most important droid in the galaxy was about to make his appearance. I always seem to get a big dumb grin whenever he's around these days. I'm gonna go with my own headcanon and say R2 is also impressed that Din has managed to turn this N1 starfighter into such a sweet ride. When R2 finishes leading the way, he powers down. While I don't like seeing that, it just seems like there's not a lot of power sources for a recharge on this planet. The first thing I want to say as we move into the Luke and Grogu scenes, I didn't think that the face technology would be ready like it was, specifically for extended use in multiple scenes. From what was shown in Chapter 6, this technology is here to stay. Huge round of applause for Shamook and the team at Lucasfilm. Now getting into the things that take place. Of course, Luke would test Grogu's focus by bringing him to a training ground with a pond full of frogs. Grogu is making big steps in his ability to be comfortable enough to show his force powers. But he is just scratching the surface when Master Luke shows him, as he once learned, just how powerful the Force really can be. As Luke and Grogu walk the forest, we are reminded that Luke was only trained by an aged Yoda and Obi-Wan. Luke was never exposed to the ways taught by masters such as Qui-Gon, or so many others who questioned the way of the Jedi. After Luke explains who Yoda was to Grogu, he questions Grogu's past, wondering, like so many of us, has Grogu ever seen anybody similar to he and Yoda? These questions go unanswered by Grogu. He is still uneasy sharing his past. I think Luke can sense this and knows he can help Grogu. Finally getting confirmation that Grogu did witness the events of Order 66 at the Jedi Temple is something I've been wondering about since the debut of The Mandalorian a little over 2 years ago. I have another question about these memories that I will ask at the end of the video. After Grogu awakens, I realized and made note that as Luke tells Grogu he will help him learn to protect himself from the dangerous parts of the galaxy, the chapter then transitions to the person who Luke's father did that for, the powerful Togruta, Ahsoka Tano. As she embraces R2, I still can't believe my eyes every time we see an animated character come to live action. Another small thing I really love is when R2 gives the uh-oh beeps when Din asks to see Grogu. Then, as they leave R2 behind, Din looks back as if to say, "Game recognized game, R2." Ahsoka leads Din within sight of Grogu, but must help him understand that if Grogu sees him, that will bring a conflict very tough to overcome. I could see the tears forming behind Din's helmet, because mine were too. This heartbreaking decision seems to be what's best for the young foundling. Din then departs, knowing Grogu is protected. Plus he now knows where Grogu's school is, should he want to check in on the progress. Speaking of progress, after some weak attempts at jumping, Master Luke gives a message of inspiration, reminding Grogu to feel the Force as he trains. In a similar way to Cal Kestis from Jedi Fallen Order, it seems those who have shut themselves off from the Force need to be presented with actual danger in order for their abilities to resurface. This is another reminder of how inexperienced Luke is when it comes to his knowledge of training a Padawan. I really wondered if we would see Ahsoka and Luke, but in her own series. So this is quite the Star Wars gift delivered a few years early. Sticking to her word, she gives Luke the gift from Din, and exits with advice to an unsure master that he should trust his instincts. The question that lingers now is, how much did Ahsoka share with Luke about the past? It's just a lot to think about, so let's move along. Back on Tatooine, Din arrives at the palace. I wonder if he's ever been here before. Before he even meets everyone, he has volunteered himself to help boost Boba's numbers in the streets should a war break out with the Pikes. I'll take a moment here to say the absence of Boba the last few chapters is not something I was prepared for. In my videos for previous chapters, I said I wanted weekly Rancor updates. So no Boba equals not even one of those. Not even a name yet, which I was sure was gonna happen. Let me know in the comments, what do you think is gonna happen with Boba in Chapter 7 and in the future? My guess is that Boba will be a pretty big part of Mando Season 3. And this war doesn't feel like it'll wrap up in one chapter, so Season 2 of this show would be a welcome addition. Regardless, back to Din Djarin, who calls upon Cobb Vanth, the Marshal of Mos Pelgo and a man of taste. He recognizes the N1 starfighter and gives the same looks as I would if I saw it. Over a round of drinks, Din offers the same reasoning, along with credits, that Boba offered the families of Mos Espa. If you don't stand up for your territory, the Pikes will dominate Tatooine. Cobb Vanth eventually understands that in his role as leader, he cannot hide the harsh realities that are coming to the people of the newly named Freetown. Shortly after Din's takeoff, leaving Freetown, the Marshal notices a change in the atmosphere. The chimes ring as if to give warning. The sands have blown in another danger for Cobb Vanth to step in front of. I knew as soon as I laid eyes on the figure, it was Cad Bane. I had predicted his arrival being hired by the Pikes in my Chapter 4 video. The tone of this shootout told you nobody else except for Cad Bane would be standing at the end. Walking away unharmed, he declares Tatooine to now be owned by the Syndicate. Immediately following that message, we see another sent by the Pikes, an explosion at the Sanctuary that could be enough to get the other territory leaders of Mos Espa involved. If I'm counting, that's 2 victories for the Pikes and 0 for Boba. Let me know in the comments if you think Boba is ready for this fight. Unaware of what is happening on his home planet, Luke closes this chapter with a question for Grogu on which path he would like to follow. Accept the Mandalorian armor, rejecting the Jedi way, but returning to Din? Or possess Yoda's lightsaber, be trained by Luke in order to become a great and powerful Jedi? As far as my own speculation on this decision, I'm choosing to watch without judgment while not letting my own feelings get involved. How are you feeling? Will you be disappointed if Grogu chooses a certain way? Oh yeah, that question for the end of the video. It needed to wait until now. If we are to experience more of Grogu's memories, does that mean he must choose to become a Jedi? That question is the last thing I have for this chapter. This Wednesday can't come soon enough, even though it's the last one for a few months. I sincerely thank you for joining me, hoping you can keep things in a positive perspective while keeping your Star Wars genes high and tight.